Hey everybody, so this quick video is about social comparison, and this is going to be quick. So social comparison theory is all about how we decide whether our attitudes, our beliefs, and even our abilities are appropriate. So according to social comparison theory, we like to have accurate attitudes, and we like to have abilities that are appropriate. So we don't want to, so we like to feel competent, essentially. So how do we decide whether or not our attitudes are correct or we're competent? Well, you can do it in a number of ways, but the easiest way, and probably the best way, at least according to social comparison theory, is if you can find an objective criterion. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's say that you wanted to know whether or not your belief in Superman was the right belief. All right. Try now. If there was an objective source, now for many things, including Superman, there is no objective source. But if there was an objective source, then you would want to first compare that. So, something for which there is an objective source. Let's say that you wanted to make sure that you were not obese. Well, there's an objective criterion for that, and you can look that up. So according to social comparison theory, if you wanted to have an accurate view of your own obesity, you could seek out an objective source. However, for many things, in fact, most things that we have opinions about, most things that we encounter on a daily basis, for most things, there isn't an objective criterion. And so social comparison theory says that when there is not an objective criterion, you look to others for help in judging whether or not you have accurate abilities or whether you're competent. So, if you, going back to Superman, all right, do you have the right attitude about Superman? Well, there's no objective criterion for whether you have the right idea about Superman, so you look to similar others. Do your friends like Superman? No? Then if you like him, you probably want to change your attitude a bit. And that's basically what social comparison theory argues, that if there's no objective criterion to compare your attitudes to, then you look to similar others. And then, so you then compare the attitudes and abilities that you have to the attitudes and abilities that these similar others have. Now, these similar others can include reference groups. So, let's say that you're getting into bodybuilding. All right, and you've never bodybuilt in your life, okay? So you're similar other, and none of your friends are bodybuilders. So your similar others probably aren't a good reference group. But you would then find a reference group, bodybuilders, to compare yourself to. Then you'd compare your current ability to theirs, and then modify your behavior to match. All right. So and that's, according to social comparison theory, that's how social comparison theory leads us to modify our behaviors and how we gather information about ourselves, because we compare ourselves to others. So, am I strong? Well, I compare myself to my friends. Am I stronger than all my friends? Then I'm strong. Am I not? No, I'm not very strong. But if I was comparing myself to the reference group of bodybuilders, then am I strong? No, I'm not strong at all. All right. You see how we can gather information about ourselves from comparing ourselves to others, and social comparison theory says that we like to have the correct attitudes and abilities. So we first try to compare ourselves to an objective criterion to see if we have the right attitude, and then if there is no objective criterion, we look to similar others. All right, and that, my friends, is social comparison theory. Oh, I almost forgot one last thing I wanted to mention about social comparison theory. So when we decide who we're comparing ourselves to, we can compare ourselves to people who either possess a attribute or attitude to a greater extent than we do, or to someone who has an attitude or attribute to a lesser extent than we do. So if we are comparing ourselves to, sticking to the attribute of strength, if we're comparing ourselves to people who are stronger than we are, we're engaging in what's called an upward social comparison. We're comparing ourselves to someone who has an ability to a greater extent than we do. If it was an attitude, let's say you compared yourself to someone who had a far more positive view of Superman than you do. Then you're engaged, and you compare yourself to them. Then you're engaging in upward social comparison. But if instead, with the strength example, you compare yourself to somebody who, isn't very strong, all right, then you're engaging in downward social comparison. Or if you compared yourself to, with the Superman example, if you compared yourself to someone who flat out hates Superman, then you're engaging in downward social comparison, because you're comparing yourself to someone who has an attribute or attitude to a lesser extent than you have. Okay. Now, upward social comparison can have different kinds of effects. So if you compare yourself to someone who has an attitude or attribute to an extent that far exceeds yours and far exceeds your ability to ever achieve, then that can actually be depressing, and it can make us feel bad. But if we believe that we can get to the point that they're at, by them I mean the person we're comparing ourselves to when we're engaging in upward social comparison. If we think we can get there, then upward social comparison can be motivating, and it can spur us on to engage in behavior to reduce the distance. But if we're engaging in downward social comparison, that can actually make us feel good. See, I'm not as weak as they are. See, I like Superman better than they do. So downward social comparison can have the effect of bolstering our self-view. All right, and that is it for my brief discussion about social comparison. If you have any questions, please send them my way. Other than that, take it easy.